Hey, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the Beast. God damn it.
Yes.
All the time with this nonsense.
Yeah.
Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
This is Danny.
So it's a strange mix.
Uh-huh.
It's excitement. It's woe. It's exhilaration. It's dread. All condensed in a ball.
Wheel and woe.
Like whistling and crackling at the same time.
Yeah.
Like a comet. You know.
It's been on our list for a while.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more at the end about that. But let's talk about a couple things up front. We have, by the time this comes out, it will have already been released. But if you don't know about it and you're finding out right now, our guest
episode of the Talking Pondo, Making Pondo podcast, specifically the Talking Pondo.
Yes, because we didn't make Pondo with them.
We did not.
No.
We made no Pondo.
No Pondo at all.
But we did talk with them about Friday the 13th and The African Queen.
Yes. Two disparate movies you could ever put together. But, you know, that's kind of the thing. That's what made it fun.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people who love film and love movies for being movies, it doesn't matter. You can take any two movies in the universe, put them together, and they'll work for a conversation.
Yeah, well, and I think Marty found some crossover, as we discussed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to this, folks, write it down. Talking Pondo, Making Pondo, and check us out. I thought you had a date that it would be.
Well, it's going to be Monday. Monday, February. As I'm looking at my calendar, Monday, February 10th.
Right. Yeah.
It's being released.
We're recording this on the 4th. So yeah, it'll already have been out, folks, but check it out. And while you're at it, check out all their past episodes, not just the talking stuff, but the making stuff, because the Making Pondo is fun, because they are talking to the people they made the movies with, stars of the movies, crew, just everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and these guys do not have dull stories.
No, it's really fun to listen to them.
I mean, and that's the beauty of independent film.
Yes.
There's just none of that like forced behavior. Like when like a studio has eyes on you, it's like Orwellian, you know, and you just don't want shit to go off the rails too far. You don't want to be fucking around too much because they're wasting money, they're wasting time, they're killing the budget.
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense of not wanting to upset Big Brother or Big Sister, right?
Yeah, because they can pull the plug on the production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with indie film, it's more like a family.
It is, because every indie film is a passion project, even the high budget ones, because we spent some time going through IFC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how can you not look at a channel? I mean, IFC's been around forever now,
right?
You know, but independent film, Jesus Christ, independent film channel, they have money.
They sure do.
There are no poor productions on there, but it's still independent, which means those movies are always at least one step outside the box.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why we love them, because I like to be challenged. You know, formula movies just don't do it. Like the Marvel films, well, they were fun for a while, but then it just got tedious because it's like almost 4 fucking hours long and it's the same formula and it's all the shit. And yeah, we have money. And okay, but we don't have much else. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys, they don't have the studio head.
Correct.
And they don't have a lot of money. So circumstances are always unique and interesting. They do what they need to do to get it done. And what is lovely about Cliff and Marty and Jeff and everybody involved is everyone understands this has got to get done. And to do that, it's going to take sacrifices.
Yeah.
Because none of these people are full-time professional actors. They are not full-time professional filmmakers. Everyone has a job, a family, and stuff. And sometimes you have to sacrifice some time with the family,
Yeah.
right? But most of the time, you have to sacrifice sleep
Yeah.
and your days off and everything because you get it done. And it is just the epitome of passion project. You know, you've got to have that, and all these people do. All the people we've talked to,
Yeah. I mean, there's no way to get it done if you don't care.
right? Um, like I said, the folks we've interviewed, the conversations at the watch party,
Oh, yeah.
a long time ago already.
It was.
Feels like it, right? Yeah. Um, they're just great. They're just
Mm-hmm.
great. So, you know, do these guys a solid, listen to their podcast, do the same things we're asking you to do with ours. Like them, rate them, do the things, follow, subscribe, whatever you need to do, because different platforms have it differently. Anyway, click all the buttons, all the good buttons, do all the good things, and, you know, help keep things moving along.
And check out their films on Prime Video.
Prime.
Writing Frenzy, Revenge of Zoe, and The Love Song.
Finding Frenzy.
Finding Frenzy?
Finding Frenzy.
I thought
Oh, it was Writing Frenzy.
It's Writing Frenzy.
Yeah, I keep saying
I don't
Finding.
know. Because that's alliterative.
Sure.
Revenge of Zoe and The Love Song of William H. Shaw.
Yes. First time ever, all three together.
Yeah.
In a package, and there may very well be DVD sets in the near future, which we will have one. Promise you. Speaking of doing all the things, check out our website, lordsofmisrulproductions.com.
Everything is up there. You got links to socials. You got episodes. You got links to our Patreons. You got email addresses you can reach us at.
Yeah. So, two things. One, do all the stuff I just said. You know, we don't need to keep rolling through it. Visit all the things, become a patron, please. That would be awesome. And, you know, keep this thing going and do some more stuff with it. Also, you know, check out all the other stuff, rate it, review it, do stuff. Cause you know, everything's about click, 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 click. Also, if you are, or you happen to know an independent filmmaker, have them go to the website, click on send an email, and send us an email.
Mm-hmm.
And tell them to tell us what they've done, where we can find it. We want to get to it. And I say that because for this next film coming up, not what we're doing today, we spent some time looking. And I wanted to find something on the level of like Space Trucker Bruce. You know, a bunch of stuff that we've seen that never had a hope of like going to a theater, right? Some are straight to video, some are film festivals, small ones,
right,
and then to video or streaming. And I really want to find those, but here's the problem: Tubi has Dune on it.
I know,
right? When Tubi first started, there was no fucking way they could have ever hoped to have gotten that movie, right? I'm talking about the latest one, you know, Mr. D.
Yeah, but their model is really successful, and I'm not surprised.
Oh, I'm not. You know, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good because I love what they're doing. I don't mind commercials. That's, you know, fine. But the problem is because how they got to that model, these bigger movies are getting on there, and that's great. But something has to go, right? First in, first out kind of thing. Something needs to go. And unfortunately, their selection of like camcorder type stuff is they become like Amazon, right? So we found Space Trucker Bruce on Amazon, and they had a whole, I mean, we spent all night going through all these things that were done on phones and camcorders because they were, you know, before the phones.
Yeah.
And we loved this stuff. It's how we found, you know, Failure Boys.
Right.
Jack of the Taddy Bogle. And then they turned us on to Firefly, and it was there, and we were able to watch all this stuff and review it and talk to people. It's just wonderful. It's a wonderful thing, but they're getting harder to find. And I know there are channels or services out there that are supposed to have this stuff. But there comes a point where I can't keep paying for shit that I don't watch an awful lot, you know. Um, so we pared it down to 2 services.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're back up to 5. And then, well, Tubi's free,
Yeah.
but, you know.
We have added Netflix and IFC.
Yeah, you know. So anyway, that's just what it is. If it's you, get a hold of us. If it's somebody you know, say, hey, check these guys out. You know, and longtime listeners, we're always fair. Sometimes we don't like stuff, but I can't remember too many times except for Birdemic, because that was just that was riddled with so many issues, you know.
We were not the first people to poke at Birdemic.
No. And Riff Tracks, I think they had their hands full.
Sure.
There was a lot of missed opportunities, but it's because they were engrossed in dealing with this opportunity. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, let them know. Send us email with a link to their stuff as long as we can watch it. Sweet. Not opposed to renting things.
No.
You know, I just don't want to pay for a service that I have to scroll through and dig and find. If you got a link to something and it's $3, $5, done. Because I really would like to get more of those.
Oh, yeah.
It's just everything is very high budget to the point of where it's B-movie level funding for indie films. And it's not that they're bad, but we're missing a whole group of people. And I don't want them to disappear from this podcast.
Yeah, out there doing this stuff. Maybe they don't have a distribution deal, you know.
Right. Or they signed up.
Maybe they're self-distributing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, the Failure Boys, they forgot about the one, Firefly.
Right.
It was buried so deep nobody was seeing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, also, David Ryan Keith, Primal Games.
March something?
Early March, I thought. Early to mid, maybe. We should really start writing this shit down again.
Yeah.
We talk about it and then we're just immediately pulled into something. It's ridiculous.
Release date. Oh no, that's not right. Sorry, never mind.
That's okay. Anyway, it's let's look for it in March, and we're going to try and get to David, just like we're going to try and get to Jeff. It's just so difficult.
Yes.
Planning and all that good stuff. But anyway, David Ryan Keith, Primal Games, when it comes out, give it a watch, give it those views, let him get his nickel from the streaming.
He doesn't have nobodies in this movie. He's got, Hannah Benz, Gary Casper. Love Gary Casper.
Yeah, I mean, these are people. He's building a crew, kind of like Joss Whedon did.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. David has people that he's enjoyed working with, and I've enjoyed working with him, and just keep showing up.
May 6th.
May 6th. Yep. May 6th. So not March. We got plenty of time to work this through then.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that is all of the news I wanted to throw out there. Unless you have something.
Nope.
Okay. Well.
Oh, don't sound so sad.
Let's do this.
Okay.
All right. Why then don't you tell us about this film?
Well, this film is called Troll 2. It was made in 1990. She's an oldie.
Yeah.
Directed by Claudio Fragasso. Written by Claudio Fragasso and his wife Rosella Drudy. Starring Michael Paul Stevenson, George Hardy, and Margie Prey. I hope it didn't autocorrect her name there. I'm not going to look it up. It was rated PG-13. The budget for this film was estimated to be $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Of note, the worldwide gross this movie received was $1,131.
Not even change.
Even in 1990.
It's an abject failure.
That
is a box office crash.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Here is the log line.
Mm-hmm.
A vacationing family discovers that the entire town they're visiting is inhabited by goblins disguised as humans who plan to eat them.
Okay.
I have a couple of fun facts.
Do we want to do those now, or do you want to wait till the end?
That's a great question. Maybe we do them at the end.
Let's do them at the end. I don't want to spoil.
I'm sorry. Spoil?
Look.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Are we ready to talk about this thing?
I don't know. Hold on. Let's see. No, but we're going to do it anyway.
Okay. So we start with a voiceover telling us a story. And the voice is Grandpa, as we're informed by a kid's voice. And I noted immediately from way back, because yes, I have seen this more than once, more than twice, and I'm not going to go further than that. But I thought this dude sounds a lot like Burl Ives. Like they were going for that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer 60s animation vibe, right? So then we cut from this story to the kid and Grandpa, who is telling the story from a book, and he tells us goblins are evil creatures. And then we go back to the fairy tale. So goblins are chasing Peter, the hero of the story, through the woods. And the goblins are something else. They're dressed in burlap sacks.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. The only thing missing is the actual word potato stamped on it.
Correct.
It is something. And the makeup is middling.
Is it even middling? Because it's literally just masks.
With a little movement. A little bit. But what about Bug-Eye?
I love Bug-Eye.
I know.
He's my favorite one.
Watch this, folks, and you'll find out what Bug-Eye is. Love Bug-Eye. So Peter eventually falls, because that's what happens when you run through the woods, and knocks himself out. When he wakes up, a beautiful woman is there, smiling, and then forces him to eat some putrid-looking green slop. It was apparently very delicious, because he couldn't get enough of it. And then we learn from Grandpa Seth that goblins can change shape. So yeah, the woman is a goblin. Then Peter starts to sweat chlorophyll green. And then Peter has turned into half man, half plant. And then the goblins ate him. And according to Grandpa Seth, that's their favorite food.
Yeah.
So then Mom comes into the kid's room. Kid's name is Josh. And Grandpa Seth isn't there. Apparently he died 6 months ago. Josh says, he seems so real. And Mom says, you were at the funeral, and I know it was very difficult for you, but you must banish him from your mind.
I know. Forget about Grandpa, darling. Don't just forget, banish him.
And folks, if you dive into this, and this is your first run, I've got a spoiler. Mom's eyes never get smaller. She constantly looks like she's scared shitless.
Yeah.
She is just wide-eyed. And she yells her lines, even in the most like intimate moments.
I know.
With all of the sincerity and tenderness of having a cheese grater rubbed across your ass. It's just terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's as though she is trying to speak like constantly to people who don't speak the language that she speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks that the louder that she does it, the better they'll understand her.
And I put in my notes, if Mom's eyes were any more wide open, her face would split and shoot off the back of her skull from the tension.
Yeah, it would be like Beetlejuice when they pull their faces apart, right?
Yes. So then Josh asks Mom if goblins exist. She says no. Next, we're in a teenage girl's room. She's lifting weights. She's all sweaty, jamming with her headphones on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is pure late 80s, very early 90s. You see it and you're like, I know where that came from. I know when that was made. Say no more. Mom peeks in and then she leaves. Dad is downstairs closing some big business thing on the phone. And so Mom comes down and apparently they're going to a place called Nilbog. Yeah, you can guess from here what that is. So Mom asks Dad, who are the goblins? What?
Yeah. Well, first she talks about being concerned about Josh. And Dad's like, well, this trip will make him forget all about Grandpa.
Yeah. And her eyes are still wide open. Then we go back to Josh's room and we hear some sounds, some kind of clicking or knocking about. So he grabs a flashlight and opens the blinds. And there's some dude pressed against the window who screams and falls off a ladder. And then Josh goes and runs, hides under the covers, repeating, goblins don't exist.
Can I make a note here?
Please make a note.
The young actor who plays Josh.
Yes.
He is really doing his hardest.
I mean, we'll come back to all of this, but yeah, I don't want to say
he
anymore.
Is giving it his best effort.
He is giving it his best effort, and I have some things to say about that.
Okay.
So then in the girls' room, idiot ladder guy has climbed into the room while she's jamming out and stuff, and then, scares her by creeping up on her. We learn that the family hates him. 80s. He wants to bone. She says no. Then his idiot friends are in the window, like total dweebs. Oh, hey, can we go get some chips or something? And the girl takes a cue from her mother, but takes it up a notch. She shouts her lines, monotone shouting. It is just, it's like when they do, like within a movie, they're making a movie with bad actors. And, every person on the set's like, I wish I had ice cream. I'm hungry too. Just shouting with no intonation into the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she one-upped Mom.
She sure did.
Which is awesome. So she tells idiot ladder dude, his name is Elliot, that they're going to Nilbog. And there's this whole thing. Apparently he's going to go with them.
Apparently that's going to be okay with her family that she just established.
Well, they're talking like he's going to just fucking show up, hop in the car, and off they go.
Right.
Please.
He asks if he can bring his friends.
That's another conversation.
Yeah. She goes, no. So then they're in the car. Apparently Elliot didn't show up. And the girl is, oh my gosh, heartbroken about it.
Shouting those lines of misery.
She sure is. And the conversation's so awkward. And then Mom yells at Josh to sing for some reason. And then we have to listen to them singing Row Your Boat.
Can I just back up on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Because this was so weird. So they're arguing. And the mom, like she's having some sort of fucking episode. Josh, sing for us. Sing that song that I like. Just one of the most uncomfortable moments of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but it was just weird. And then he's like, on command singing row, row, row your boat. It's sad. Just so sad.
The line that I have in my notes, I want you to know this. After I wrote, they're singing Row Your Boat, There's a line in my notes that's really just for me, and it was to keep me going.
Sure.
It says, "I am doing this for the podcast."
I love your dedication.
I just want you to know that. And then out of nowhere, country Casio music. The music in the beginning when Dead Grandpa was narrating the story actually almost sounded like a casino, music,
Yeah.
right?
It didn't fit.
No. So then we see the idiot crew of Elliot and his friends. They have gotten RV somehow.
Yeah, old style Winnebago.
Yeah, and are on the way. And apparently he promised his friends the town was full of girls.
Loose women.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't jump into a Winnebago for that?
And then Josh has a dream that the family is talking about how much he ate. It's pretty clear. It's a dream like from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to the credit of the filmmakers, they, made that clear. Or maybe they didn't mean to make it clear. I don't know.
We'll never know.
They're talking about how much he ate, and he starts turning into a plant. They turn into goblins. They're in the car still. He's covered in green stuff, and then he wakes up. And he sees Grandpa, dead Grandpa, out the window. You know what? His name's Grandpa Seth, but I mostly call him Dead Grandpa.
Sure.
On the side of the road with a sign that says, and it's hard to read, but it says, "Stop them."
I just want to say, I really have been trying to be on point with names.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always succeed.
Yeah.
But I had some other iterations of Grandpa Seth.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I hated having to type it all out, because it was like old dude, Gramps, grumbles, just all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
But I settled on Grandpa Seth, went back and made the changes because I feel good that I got his name.
Mm-hmm. Well, they say it like 18 times.
They do. But apparently Dino Girl in Redwood Massacre, according to David and Liam and
everyone,
everyone, they've said the name a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just missed it. And then it just got to the point where I didn't care because she was Dino Girl.
I still actually don't remember her name.
Okay.
So
moving on.
Josh insists on stopping the car, saying that he's going to throw up or something. And then the second they open the door, he runs to Grandpa, who's standing on the side of the road with a sign. And Grandpa tells him they're going to a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out the guy is not Dead Grandpa. He is just some old hitchhiker.
Gonna give me a ride or what?
Yeah.
Awesome dialogue.
Yeah. And then they're driving again, and the girl, Holly?
Yes. Got that one too. Nailed it.
Sees Elliot and his friends on the side of the road, and Elliot,
from like 500 yards.
Yeah. Seems shocked that she isn't just delighted to see him.
And I put in here, I don't know, and this isn't just this movie, but filmmakers quit fucking pretending that if there's a car on a highway that's like 200 feet up,
I know,
because they're down like in a little valley and about 500 yards away. So do the math. How are you going to see anything in that fucking window? But apparently he did, because he saw her.
Not to mention they were like tinted windows.
Yeah, sourpuss face.
I've never seen a stupider group of characters in film before. It's truly unreal. And then they get to the town of Nilbog, which Dad has established apparently only has 26 residents. A population of 26.
Right.
That's not a town.
Right. It would be worth saying that they're doing this as an exchange program.
Right, where they're exchanging.
They're going to go stay at
a family's house.
A family's farmhouse, and that family is going to go stay in their house in the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we are told.
The city, capital C. It's not really established what city?
Probably for safety's
The,
sake.
the big city.
They didn't. They knew what they were filming, and they didn't want to like.
Yeah, they live in TBC, the big city.
Yeah.
And they're in town, and there is literally no one around. And they stop the van that they're in, and I think Dad says the farm is, quote, right there, just like pointing forward while they're in the car.
Yeah.
But then they're at the farm, and there is no sign of a city or anything around, and no way that they'd have seen this farm from anywhere, because there's nothing around this farm.
Well, and one of the kids makes the comment where, someone makes a comment where all the people, and Dad goes into this whole thing. Well, it's night. They're farmers, they have to go to bed. And
It's
I
not
just
night.
noted, no, it's if anything, it's like 11:30 in the fucking morning because the sun hasn't even hit the apex of its thing, but it's bright as shit out. But somehow it's night, bedtime.
Right.
They didn't even do day to night.
This dad has never been to the country before. He could not make it more clear that he is giving facts about country life that he has read from books, or that he just assumes.
I would say reading from books might even be much, but he heard it at a diner or who knows.
Yeah, maybe that guy on the side of the road told him about country life. Anyway, and there are townsfolk who like watch them leave, having hidden in the shops.
Yeah.
So they get to this farm, and the family comes out to the porch to greet them, and this family is super weird.
I had them, when you first see them, it's like a distorted American Gothic type arrangement.
It is, yeah.
Just no pitchfork.
So Josh clocks that they all have some kind of a birthmark looking thing. Some sort of weird patch on their face. And Dad just starts talking about their house in the big city while the other family is paying no attention at all to him.
Literally just walking away to their truck.
Yeah, they have spoken maybe 3 words the entire exchange. And they start walking away, and Dad's like, we have all the amenities, a microwave, refrigerator, a TV.
All the modern conveniences.
Uh-huh. Air conditioning.
Indoor outhouse. I mean, that's what I was waiting for next.
I know. Toilet. And they're leaving, and this baseball rolls towards them. And Josh picks it up, and it says, eat before we eat you, in some green goo.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have to say, if you're trying to pull some sort of trick, telling someone that you're pulling some sort of trick is not the smartest idea.
No. And that's how movies become ultra short films.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's over. But anyway, we keep going.
So Mom says the family probably left something behind for them to eat. So they go inside, and there's this spread of pretty bland looking foods with green frosting on them.
Yeah. Instead of like solid green food.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which we do get some throughout, because like in the beginning.
Yeah, later.
There's like unformed jello, something. But yeah, it all has some kind of frost. It looks like putty, actually, to me. But I mean, they eat it.
Yeah. Well,
but throughout, the thing. But it doesn't look like, just got vanilla frosting and colored it green. It just looks like a completely different substance.
I don't know. I think it just looks like frosting, but
it was horrid.
It's very green. So Josh sees dead Grandpa at the window, who tells him, don't let them eat. And he freezes time.
Yes.
This is noteworthy.
Please.
Because dead Grandpa is he's a figment of Josh's imagination.
Yeah.
Okay. And he tells Josh, don't let them eat the food. And Josh is like, what am I supposed to do? Which is exactly,
Right.
I mean, the reaction that a child would have. And I actually have a lot to discuss about this at the end.
Sure.
About Josh's dependency on dead grandpa.
Sure.
But yeah, he freezes time to give Josh a chance to think of an idea to stop the family from eating the food.
Yes.
And Josh solves this problem by unzipping his pants and apparently peeing on the table.
Peeing on the food.
This was... I don't even know. I mean, what? What?
Well, here's what I put. So he freezes time for the longest 30 seconds I have ever experienced in or out of a movie.
It does take, like, Josh circles the table. They're all like very slowly moving the food towards their mouth.
Yeah. I mean, like a whole episode of Joe Pera could have played.
Yeah.
In this 30 seconds, supposed 30 seconds.
Oh, but side note, if you've never seen Joe Pera, look him up, check it out. It's really good.
Joe Pera Talks to You.
Yeah.
Is the name of it. But also just look up Joe Pera. You'll find the show. It's awesome. He's awesome. But more notably, at the end of all of this, he decided to whip it out and just piss on everything. Now, my first inclination would have been to just knock the table over.
Right.
Right?
Take the food from their hands.
Yeah, slap it out of their hands and then throw the rest on, just sweep the table. Because they're all frozen with this time freeze, right?
Right. But we don't know how this time freeze works. Consider Dungeons and Dragons. Time stop is a spell.
Right.
Once you do something that interacts with another person,
it cancels the spell.
Right. So he might have saved one of his family members by yanking food out of their hand.
But he'd have been better just to run out the front door and let him.
I mean,
and then he'd end up dying in the wilderness and we wouldn't have to be talking about this.
Bada bing, bada boom. Troll 2 over.
All right.
Okay. So then we see the family cleaning off the plates, having not eaten. And Dad is carrying Josh over his shoulder to rooms which have names on them. And he's like, look at this, Josh. Hospitality.
You know what this sign is? Do you know what this sign is? Do you know what this sign is?
Hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality. And my favorite line, do you want to say it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So he looks like he's going to take off his belt to beat Josh with it. But he says that I'm tightening my belt by one loop so I don't have to feel hunger pains.
That's not the line I was talking about.
Oh, what's the line?
Maybe this whole group is best. So when he throws him into the bedroom,
mm-hmm.
I won't let you piss on hospitality.
Oh, yeah.
But he gives this and your mom and sister will have to do the same thing. And then he goes into that thing where apparently he starved as a child.
Right. He has more practice suffering from hunger than Josh does.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I just wrote down, I guess, PTSD, from not ever eating when he was young. I don't even know what that means. I'm tightening my fucking belt so I don't feel hunger pains. I have been hungry.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've talked about it openly. We grew up very poor.
Yeah.
And
well, apparently they didn't think to grab groceries or anything for this vacation.
No,
they just assumed they were going to eat these people's food.
Yeah.
I
don't know. But my problem is I don't understand the belt tightening thing.
No.
I can't think of an instance where cinching my gut would be like, that's better.
Right?
What the fuck? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, are they really good? The first time I saw this, I was like, are they really going to show this guy like beating his kid with a belt?
Well, I made the note as they show him going up the stairs. Mom yells, please don't hit him.
Right.
What is going on in this family?
I know.
What kind of dynamic is this? Jesus.
No wonder Josh, hallucinates his dead grandpa, maybe the only person who was ever nice to him. And even dead grandpa is like,
oh, he was a mental case when he was alive, clearly. But, it's all the kid had.
I guess.
Because this group, whew,
Well, I know. So he leaves and Josh is looking around the room. There's like a bunch of goblin sketches.
yeah. So we cut back to the Winnebago. Elliot and crew are watching cartoons. One of them goes out for a smoke, Arnold, and he hears something. He sees a woman running scared through the woods. So, of course, he runs after her. And then, as every good-natured Good Samaritan would do, he fucking, like, sacks her like a fucking defensive end, just hammers her to the ground with a tackle.
Yeah.
Which is always the right move. She asks if he's one of the monsters. She says they made her eat that stuff. And then he asks, they who? Then the goblins show up. Arnold calls them dwarves, goes over to him and tells him to get out of there or they'll be in a lot of trouble. And he walks away, mouthing off to him. So, I mean, this was funny. One goblin's just watching him and then just like lifts his spear and just fucking throws it at him.
Yeah.
So stabs him in the shoulder. Arnold screams. And then back at the Winnebago, the rest of the guys hear the scream, but they do nothing. So he and the woman find some weird old church / house.
It is clearly a church. Anyone who looks at it, it is clearly, obviously, 100% a church.
It is, but everyone calls it a house.
Everyone calls it a house.
So they go in for help. And it's quite the setup. We've got bubbling cauldrons.
Mm-hmm.
We've got dry ice vapors spilling out of cups and cracks in the walls, everything. And then we meet the owner. She's very pale and has filthy teeth.
I call her Spooky Woman.
Well, it's Credence Leonora something from Stonehenge.
Uh-huh.
Because that's a country now.
Yep.
Terrible accent. Arnold asks for a hospital. Credence says they're used to curing themselves in Nilbog. So she brings them a drink.
A miracle broth is what she calls it.
Yeah, she has this just magnificent delivery of the whole...
Oh, she's overacting.
God, yeah. Talk about
wildly.
Chewing it all up. It's wild. So they drink. The woman stumbles off and starts puking green stuff. Arnold seems to be taking it in stride. Then he can't move. The woman is oozing green everywhere and screaming a lot. Then the woman becomes semi-melted jello. Now, this is upstairs. She managed to somehow stumble upstairs. I love that when it happens in movies.
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't get it. I'm a physics guy. How can you be falling and trying to stay up, but yet go up a flight of Stonehenge stairs? But anyway, Credence is just as pleased as shit. And then, boom, from the second floor, here come the goblins. Arnold is still just stuck. He hasn't turned into anything yet. But he's not happy with what's happening to this woman that he clearly... Right.
And he says he's unable to move.
Over and over.
Uh-huh.
I'm still unable to move.
My favorite line from Spooky Woman in this scene is, she is one with the vegetable.
Yeah. There's a vegetable fetish going on here. So we cut back to the farmhouse. Josh is in his room bitching to himself. Holly is dancing in front of a mirror for whatever reason, and it's terrible. Went on way too long. Then she's bitching out Elliot by talking to herself while dancing. So I don't know. Is it like, I don't know. I mean, was that ever a thing anywhere in the country, in the world, where when you're angry at somebody, you're going to yell at them and you're going to dance while you're doing it? Because her dancing sucked. The argument was terrible. But anyway. And then Grandpa Seth's face shows up in the mirror and she shits herself hard.
She does.
And screams for Mom and Dad. Tells them she saw Grandpa Seth, who was calling out to Josh. And Dad's tired of it. So they go into Holly's room. Dad says it has to be her imagination or a hallucination, and then asks, "Are you still smoking dope?"
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
Where did this model American family come from?
these are terrible parents.
This whole thing is just so wild. Uh, Dad says, or well, we did that. Still smoking dope. Josh says he'll stay in the room. Holly's happy. Everyone leaves. And then Josh starts calling for Grandpa Seth, and then tells him he was in the wrong room. Grandpa Seth says Josh needs to convince the family to leave. It's an evil place. It's the kingdom of the goblins. Now, at this point, folks, I know you've been thinking it, wondering. The word troll is not mentioned one time in this fucking movie.
There are zero trolls.
There are zero trolls.
There were never going to be any trolls in this movie.
No, we'll get to that later. But I just, because I've said goblins a lot, and I had to make a note because.
And it's not that trolls and goblins are interchangeable, because they're not.
They are not. They are not. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So then Grandpa Seth says he needs to leave, but says he'll be back. For a dead guy, he's got like a lot of appointments, because he's like showing up for a second, giving this kid like these tasks with no guidance, and then just fucks off to whatever he's got to go do. And then he shows up later,
Grandpa has a lot of made up, completely plot dependent rules that he needs to follow.
Are they even rules? Because I'm not clear on them. But anyway, so we're back at the Winnebago the next morning, and there's apparently no food. None of these motherfuckers thought about food. Not the family, not the Winnebago guys, Elliot and crew. Just, okay.
You and I took a little road trip a couple of years ago down to Georgia.
Yeah.
One of the first things that we did was we filled a cooler with drinks and snacks. And I mean, not like groceries, but it was plenty.
Stuff that we could make sandwiches and have like decent food, not just, eating Cheetos and shit. But yeah, we had driving food to pull over and have lunch, and then we'd stop and go somewhere and have dinner and get a room and whatnot, and start the next day. And when we got our hotel in Savannah, first thing we did is load up the refrigerator.
That's true. With
it's
snacks.
It's like when we're out and about.
Decent stuff.
We're not going to drive back to the hotel, grab lunch. We're going to eat out. But, there was a day where we knew there's going to be at least one day where it's like, not going anywhere. We're just going to do some stuff, and then just because it's vacation, take a fucking chill day.
Yeah.
So we should have stuff. And it was not hard to do.
I know.
Anyway, so one of the friends decides to jog into town to get food. And then we go back to the farmhouse, and suddenly all there is for food is this nasty ass spoiled milk. And it actually reminded me of wallpaper paste.
Sure.
Because remember we were talking, I'm like, doesn't even look like spoiled milk. We've all seen spoiled milk. This is something else, but it actually looks like thick wallpaper paste. And there's probably a lot of people who have no idea what the fuck that is, because who uses wallpaper all that much anymore? So much to talk about. Dad and Josh decide to go into town for food. And then back to the friend who's jogging. He's running, jogging down the road. So naturally a cop car pulls out behind him. The sheriff offers him a ride to town. They make some small talk, offers him a sandwich, which is basically a bun.
It's a hamburger bun.
It's a hamburger bun with that green paste in the middle.
Yeah.
And the guy eats it, and he's like digging it. Okay. So they get into town, and then dude goes into the store, and all 10 people hanging out at the front of the store just stare at him. Inside, there's just shelves of this rancid milk. And then out comes the creepiest looking motherfucker in this movie.
I wrote the shopkeeper is the creepiest man I've ever seen in my life.
I don't even want to get into it. It comes out from behind a curtain. And this is funny. So the guy's like, can I have some coffee? And the old man loses his shit. yelling how
I know.
coffee is the devil's drink,
Yeah.
right? Gives him this rotten milk shit instead. The dude starts stumbling because he had the green burger or the green paste. And old creepy fucking looking man, that's the name I gave him, just watches him stumble out. And then, of course, the townsfolk are still there. They're staring at him. One of them says, this is really weird, just like goes up to him, that there's a message from his friend to meet him at the house that looks like an old church.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to that church, crazy woman Credence is watering Arnold, who is now slowly turning into a tree.
She is so much.
She is 10 pounds of something packed into a 5-pound sack. Just bursting everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So she calls Arnold her little flower.
Like a lot.
A lot. Like an uncomfortable amount. And then she leaves. Then we're back at the general store. There's a sign that says they're closed and will open in 20 minutes. So Dad and Josh show up, see that, and they decide to sit outside the door and wait. Dad picks up a vegetable book that was just laying around.
It says vegetable cookbook.
Yeah. And so he's starting to read it. And then Josh goes to stand by the truck to
summon dead grandpa.
Talk into the side view mirror. Grandpa doesn't show up, but in the mirror, he sees this town sign and discovers that Nilbog. Are we ready? Calming breath. Nilbog is goblin, spelled backwards.
What?
Right?
Okay.
I never saw that coming.
2 things. First, shocker. Second, the sign that says Nilbog is very obviously a street sign, not like a town sign.
Right.
So the town of Nilbog has a street, also called Nilbog.
I mean, why wouldn't it?
Nilbog.
Nilbog in Nilbog. I made a note that it has been a long ass haul to get to this point. Jesus. So then he hops on his skateboard. I don't recall that making an appearance, but whatever. And he takes off. Meanwhile, jogging dude is still carrying the sour milk into the woods. He decides to take a drink, immediately regrets it. He's sweating green. We all know this from Peter, Petey. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
At the farmhouse, Credence surprises Mom.
She's already in the house.
Yeah. Let's just keep going. We can't hit every mark.
We have to get through this.
This will be like a 22-part episode. So she gives Mom some food. Mom screams thank you because this actor has no voice regulation whatsoever. And then we cut back to Josh. He stops skateboarding near an old building, though they're all old buildings. He goes in, he finds the whole town inside. It's like a church thing with some smarmy looking dude giving some kind of sermon. So Josh creeps upstairs to listen through a hole in the floor, sets his skateboard down where the floor is broken and a board is slanted downward. And what's going to happen here? So sermon dude is going on about nothing important. So I didn't write any of it down.
It's the evils of meat.
Oh, well, yeah. Josh notices the family is there and not at his home, meaning the exchange family, where they're supposed to be. And then Sermon Dude is talking about the evils of meat. That came later. When Josh
it's right. When Josh is in there, he's talking about the evils of meat.
Like straight off?
Yeah.
No, I didn't fucking care enough to note that.
I did because it's sort of a dumb pedestal these goblins put themselves on.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone is collectively going, ugh, over and over and over. And now we're on to somehow we landed on smelly bladders and hemorrhoids.
Mm-hmm.
Then the skateboard slips down. Josh is discovered. Smash cut. Holly's gone to see Elliot. She says choose between her or his friends. He says he doesn't know what she means, so she punches him. And then we cut back to Josh, because that was an important piece of the theater we needed to experience. They're trying to get him to eat some of their strange green shit. Dad hears it, runs in. Josh tells Dad they're goblins. He points out the cloverleaf mole that they all have. Now, it looked like a really weird skin tag.
Yeah.
Or that everyone somehow uniformly got shit on their face. So like something that dried there. I would not have put money down that any of those were fucking clovers.
No.
So anyway, they have moles on their faces and they're all the same. And then he reveals the name of the town. Dad is more concerned why the farm family's still there. Farm family guy says, car trouble. Dad and Josh leave.
Yep.
Sermon dude gives everyone a look. And then he says my favorite line in this whole thing.
I love this.
We need time for some things to happen. We need to wait until tonight. I'm pausing for effect. Here it comes.
Effect.
Think on that, folks. We need some time for things to happen. Now, as much as I'm going to ridicule this for the rest of my life, and we're going to jump on it later, this is actually, in its stupidity and simplicity, one of the most brilliant, to the point fucking things you could say in any situation, folks. So if none of the rest of this podcast, this episode, does anything for you, etch this in your fucking brain. You can use it at work. You can use it with your family. You can use it with your friends. This is gold. This is hidden gold.
Yeah.
And I know they didn't mean it that way. We need time for some things to happen.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah. It's like saying in a movie, let's take a beat for plot reasons.
Exactly. But I can't wait to bring that to life.
So then Josh and Dad see Holly and Elliot off the road, like way off the road again. And Dad goes,
they'll have telescopic.
Yeah. They have magic eyes.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna bullet through this because there's a lot. We have a lot of notes.
Yeah.
So, Dad gets Holly and Elliot in the van, and then leaves. The final friend guy alone at the camper. By the way, none of these friends ever mentioned their friend Arnold, who went for a smoke and never came back.
No, food was like the number one thing.
They're not concerned. Then we see the running guy, who I just called Bandana because he wears a bandana, at the Spooky Ladies Church. There is a painfully long scene where Tree Boy is trying to get Bandana's attention. He apparently expects Bandana to drag him out, pot and all.
Yes.
And it goes so slowly. And then Spooky Lady comes back and she smacks Bandana Boy and he goes flying onto her weird bed.
Yeah, that was... Anyway.
So then she gets a chainsaw and goes for Tree Boy. And I swear to God, the dialogue takes 1,000 years before she starts cutting.
It does.
She goes on and on and on and on. Josh and Dad get home, and somehow all the townsfolk beat them there, despite saying they need to wait for things to happen. Mom is psychotically delighted that the townfolk came for a jamboree, apparently. And Holly says Elliot's part of the family now. Since when?
Right. And nobody thought to argue it, but anyway.
Josh tells them not to eat the food that the townsfolk brought. And Dad tells him to go to his room. But Dad does seem a little creeped out by the priest guy. The preacher dude.
Who's like, kids, imaginations, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. There's about 5 full minutes of Josh calling for a dead grandpa in the mirror. And then the spooky lady's in the mirror and a goblin comes crashing through it and attacks Josh.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the townsfolk are trying to get the family to eat in the weirdest fucking way possible. Like making them sit on chairs and surrounding them and bringing them plates.
I know.
All but shoving food into their mouths. And then, Grandpa Seth finally came through for Josh and cut like 3 fingers off the goblin's hand with an axe.
Yeah, he comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
With a fucking hand axe.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
And then we see the creepy lady screaming, the spooky lady screaming with her whole hand cut off, like part of her arm.
Goblin jumps back through the mirror.
Yeah.
At the farm or the church house. We see her. Yeah, it's like from like 5 inches below her elbow, the forearm was ripped off.
Yeah. The rules for Ghost Grandpa seem to be pretty free and loose.
He's not Ghost Grandpa at this point, though, because he's
like physical.
Physical.
Yeah. Anyway, spooky lady's screaming. She sticks her stump into the Stonehenge light thing.
The light of Stonehenge.
And then pulls out a new hand.
Yeah.
Then, apparently, armed with Molotov and a fire extinguisher, Josh and dead Grandpa are going to solve this goblin problem.
Yeah. I got to say this real quick.
Yeah.
After she gets her hand out and it's all good, suddenly she is beset upon by the worst case of herpes I have ever seen. Her lips look like there's just sores everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's kind of she's all over the place, this lady. So the preacher guy takes the Molotov before Josh can use it.
I know. What are we gonna do? Here, grandson, firebomb the fucking house.
Right. And then he tells Grandpa to go back to hell. Apparently, that is Grandpa's kryptonite.
Yeah.
Because Grandpa has this whole big fit and then disappears.
It's up to you now, Josh.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
So Josh voices his concerns that Grandpa might be in hell. And then dead Grandpa does manage to start the preacher guy on fire before he leaves.
He summons lightning.
Yeah.
To strike the Molotov in the guy's hand.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, the guy's holding it. He's like, and Grandpa Seth is like, I'm Zeus. And then the guy says, burning.
Well, this movie's really gone off the rails. Dad comes out and puts out the preacher guy. And goodness me, the body is a goblin.
Yep.
To Dad's absolute shock.
Never saw it coming.
The sheriff then threatens to kill the family, and then the family backs away literally through the whole crowd of goblin people without anyone trying to stop them.
Right.
And it really kills the tension when you show the family spending 10 minutes slowly backing through a crowd.
Yeah.
The family, instead of getting in a car and leaving, do the stupidest thing they could possibly do and go into the house. Spooky lady then apparently makes the sun go down and asks the Stonehenge light thing to help her.
Yeah, I bullet item this whole section. She's going on about something and then calling magic. The sun disappears. Then she calls for more power. And then we zoom in on something that I couldn't even write down. It makes no fucking sense what we were looking at.
Right. And then she turns around looking younger and hot.
Oh, yeah. She's all,
And that's apparently how this thing's going to help her.
She's as close to tits out as a PG movie will allow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like hot goth spooky lady.
Yeah.
And then the sheriff. So the goblin people are outside the house. The sheriff, who just threatened to kill the family, says, "We brought you sandwiches," and throws them at the door.
He says it'll go easier if you eat them.
Yeah. The goblin folk then explain how inconvenient it would be to kill them violently rather than them eating the goblin food. And Josh says they need dead Grandpa, and Holly suggests a seance.
Oh, yeah.
At the camper, Final Boy is watching TV, and Spooky Lady appears, suggesting they eat corn together. And tells him, he appears on the TV.
She appears on the TV.
Yeah.
And then when he goes outside, she's walking towards him sexily with this cob of corn in her hand.
Yeah, and the music is ludicrous, and I'm not really sure why Spooky Lady decided sexy is her approach to solving her problem with these humans. But sure.
Yeah.
They go in the camper, and it takes, I guess, another 1,000 years for anything to happen.
My favorite, though, is when they go in, she takes that corn and stuffs it in the belt of her dress.
Yeah.
Like a fucking firearm.
It is an ear of corn.
Yeah.
So then she's like cradling the ear of corn and presents it to him. And he's like, "Oh, I like popcorn." And she goes, "We should heat it up." And he puts it between their mouths. So they're like both
biting one side of it,
Yeah.
opposite each other.
Kind of like some weird Lady and the Tramp style situation. And then popcorn just starts getting thrown at them from all over the place.
Yeah. Now, so it's supposed to be doing the whole popcorn thing and that,
Mhm.
but we had to stop and talk about this for a second because it was like everyone on the crew hated this fucking movie so much at this point that this wasn't like cheap special effects. They were actually, because it was being like thrown hard.
Yeah.
Like, I hate you, motherfuckers. I hate you, God damn it. I flew here for this. Fuck you.
Yeah.
From all directions.
So, I know. At the house, they do not know how to do a seance. I don't know where they found a table with 40 candles randomly stuck to it, but they did. And then there's wind, and Grandpa's voice is calling out, saying he only has 10 minutes. And to destroy the magic stone that gives the goblins their power, Joshua goes to sleep somehow. And then he's a goblin. What?
Yeah.
And then the house is full of goblins, and the family runs upstairs. And Josh is suddenly in Spooky Lady's place. And he again calls out to Grandma. And I'm going to, for the rest of this paragraph and the next paragraph, I'm going to read verbatim what my notes say.
Please do.
Geez, kid, can't do anything without his dead grandpa. I get my mom and dad are sick of this grandpa nonsense. More of the family in the house with goblins. Back to Josh. Please end, movie. Josh is grabbed by a goblin. More tedious fighting stuff. Then Grandpa is back in the flesh, conveniently. He gives Josh a backpack and says he can only, quote, take out the contents when he really needs it. He tells Josh the light is the magic Stonehenge thing and to touch it, to break it. Do you want to bring us home? Or do you want me to finish it out?
No, I got it.
Well, how much do I've got 3 paragraphs left in my notes. I can whip through this real quick.
Let's see. Contents. We really need it. I've got 3 whole paragraphs, but I can
Okay.
this quick. Okay. And then shows then Josh is shown the Stonehenge magic stone, which is impossible to miss because it's like 1/4 of the fucking inside of the house.
Yeah.
Right. But everyone's, Grandpa Seth does some Spock pseudo force Jedi thing. I haven't figured it out. And Josh copies him. Why not? Family's looking done for back at the house. They're trapped in the basement. Mom's supposed to look scared, but the same wide ass eyes she's had the entire fucking film. And Dad just looks super confused. Kind of like, what was this life decision I made? Corn guy wakes up under a mountain of popcorn. Credence looks like her old self outside with dirty teeth and pale skin. She's pissed. She screams. Goblins suddenly vanish from the farmhouse. Dad says they need to go get Josh. Grandpa Seth is going about some pseudo bullshit philosophy. World's worst Yoda. That's what I put. Then he vanishes.
For plot reasons, apparently.
Right? Credence shows up. Even more herpes sores than before on her lips.
Mm-hmm.
And one has to ask why. Goblin hands her a bowl of green shit. She tries to force feed Josh. And then he pulls out a double-decker bologna sandwich, which looks more like a half a bologna roll stacked vertically between 2 pieces of bread.
Yeah.
And this was the secret weapon from the backpack. Takes a bite. Goblins lose their shit.
The cholesterol!
Yeah, long story short, they all touch the wall as Josh yells over and over, concentrate. And you and I looked at each other and were like, on what?
Yeah.
The fuck are you concentrating on? Goblins vomiting, screaming, exploding, and it's quiet. Cut to the van pulling up to their house. Dad said he has to run by the office. Elliot needs to go home. Inside, Mom is sitting with Josh eating an apple. Josh goes to his room. She's going to take a shower. He's sitting on his bed, all sad, talks to the mirror. We hear whispers. Goes down, calls for Mom. Softball comes down the stairs. Yummy Mom was written on it in green. He goes into the shower. It's full of green shit. And then he goes down to the kitchen. The goblins are eating a jellied version of Mom, who at this point in the film, they decided to go for broke. And they gave this jellified vegetable thing the biggest tits.
The biggest, perkiest tits.
I mean, yeah.
I have notes about the tits also.
And then the goblin asks, do you want some Joshua? He screams, the end.
Finally.
Okay. Let's talk about this bitch.
Okay.
So I want to say I was very conscious when making the notes that we have watched really good movies and I have not taken as many notes.
I know.
But there's a reason for it. So I really I really wanted to capture the essence of this movie and all these ridiculous moments.
Yeah,
Saves us time in the back end.
it does.
So here's my quick summary. This movie's fucking terrible.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think it's
Possibly one of the worst movies ever made.
very well. It's got some Plan 9.
There's some competition out there.
Yeah, there's some competition, but it is not an easy win for any of them.
It's top 10.
But here's the thing. It still holds to what we try to put through on this show. Someone wanted to make a movie, and they did.
They did it.
Didn't just talk about it, didn't write half a script, didn't spend 20 years pissing and moaning. They did it. Better or worse, they
Well,
did
Claudio has spent the past 30 years pissing and moaning about how this movie was received.
it. Well, I mean, and I we all face that,
Sure.
right? But one of the things is this movie has there's a documentary out there. This movie has such a huge cult following.
It does.
The guy who plays the dad, he's a dentist in real life. And at the time of the documentary, which was not that long ago, in perspective, still a dentist,
Hmm.
and takes time to go to these things because people will have like Troll 2 viewings.
Yeah.
They'll rent a small theater and play it. He goes to these things. He loves it. He loves the whole thing. And I mean, no matter how much we shit on this, it is what it is.
Hmm.
People do enjoy it for various number of reasons, right? And that is a win.
It is.
Because we have done so many movies and we've talked about so many movies that were shit at the box office and not real good movies. And like 20 years later, someone fucking like digs out a DVD or a VHS and like, whoa, and then starts this whole thing.
I mean, MST3K and Riff Tracks began a lot of that.
Yes. That is the fun of watching bad movies. And we do it sometimes.
Yeah.
We intentionally look for something that looks like this. This is going to tank hard.
Yeah. This
And
looks
it
like a
does.
big old stinker.
Yep. And we have fun with it. We do our own riffing.
Yeah.
And stuff. Obviously we don't do it for this because they've got that mountain covered.
They do. Yeah.
Way better than we could.
I wonder, is there a riff of Troll 2?
I mean, we could look. We always like check the streamers and stuff, but they've got a bunch of stuff that is we have to watch the movie and time the riffs.
Mhm.
It might be on there.
Yeah.
I'd
be shocked if it wasn't.
We'll look for it. It'll be a fun watch. Anyway, the interesting facts.
Yeah, I have a couple interesting facts.
Yes.
Although the movie was titled Troll 2, there are no trolls in the movie, as you may have noticed. It was originally titled Goblins, but distributors in the United States felt that it would not succeed on its own as a standalone project. Wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
So they insisted that it be named Troll 2 to capitalize on the minor success of Troll 1986.
Yes.
Despite not having anything at all, nothing whatsoever to do with the movie Troll.
Right. And that comes from Troll was in the era where we had Ghoulies,
Mm-hmm.
the pinnacle monster coming out of the toilet scene. And a lot of films like that, which, I mean, there was Critters, which is arguably better than this. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's like, they could have called it Dachshund because dog movies were big.
I know.
Is it what the fuck? Anyway.
The director Claudio and his wife, Rosella, only spoke Italian. They wrote the screenplay in very poor English. On set, the actors suggested they ad-lib their lines to make the dialogue sound better, and Claudio forbade that and insisted that all the lines had to be read as written.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, the cast members said that during production they had pretty serious doubts about how the movie would work, because the entire crew spoke only Italian, except for the costume designer, who was translating the director's directions to the actors.
Because that's always a win.
Yeah. And the entire cast of this movie went to casting calls for it expecting to be extras. They were not at all expecting to be cast as leads in the film. They assumed that the leads had already been cast and that they were just going for an extras call. But they ended up in lead roles.
So let's talk about that for a second. Let's go to the kid. There are very, very few child actors. What do you think? 8? No, not 8.
He was maybe 10.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because anyway, that's why I typically don't like movies that have kids in them. But Mary Madeline.
Oh yeah.
Right. Eminem. Banging.
Mm-hmm.
Her whole and her co-stars banging.
Yeah, they did a fantastic
job. It's a rare thing.
Yeah.
And especially if it's like first time out and this kind of setup. The actor who played Josh, I think, did actually a good job, given
what he had to work with.
Yeah. And that's the script. That's nobody speaking English.
Yeah.
And being forced to just like roll through it. I give a hat tip to that.
Yeah. And Michael Paul Stevenson, who played the dad, also, it seemed like, gave it his best.
He really did. There was so much earnest, and it actually reminded me of a lower scale William Shatner, right? So when Shatner was on Twilight Zone, did a bunch of stuff and some like Western appearances and that, but when he got Star Trek and he played Kirk, I mean, he even admits it, and I've talked about it. He's like, I would have done it all differently, but I was Shakespearean in that whole thing, and this was this big main character, and he gave it his all, and we could have done with a quarter.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like Dad came across,
I mean, that is the one thing I can say about all the actors in this film, is that they do appear to be earnest in their efforts.
Yes.
It's just,
if I were to rate them, it would be Josh at the top, Dad behind it. I'm not even going to group Grandpa Seth because I'm just not a fan of the Burl Ives knockoff approach to this. Anyway, and then would be Mom, even though she's got those weird ass eyes and shouting, because the one who played Holly could have used the eyes. Just one level of volume and not good at all.
I would actually
putting it out there.
I would put Arnold above Mom.
Arnold?
Tree Boy, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had it pretty easy.
Spooky Lady's at the very bottom of the pile.
Yeah. That she's overcompensating for something.
Good Lord.
That was just wild. I mean, it was like a public access television performance. And I don't know how much of it was her chewing the scenery or how much of it was the script or the fact that nobody fucking understood what anyone on the crew was saying, and they just like kept going until they got hit with a Nerf or something.
Do you know what I think it was?
Tell
I have
me.
a theory.
Okay.
She was the only one with her like proper costume.
I mean, that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the goblins had proper costumes.
But they didn't speak.
I mean, that's fair. They made sounds a lot. Well, they did. Yummy. Want some?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Arnold.
Okay.
So I mentioned at the beginning that I commented in my notes that the makeup was middling, and I will hold by that because we have seen some stuff that has just been. There's a fine line.
Hmm.
We've talked about movies where like the zombies literally just someone brought their purse, grabbed the makeup out of it, and like let's do the best we can,
Yeah.
right? And we're not talking like effects makeup. We're talking about just like smearing green and some blush and black, whatever. For I don't know what makeup's broken down into,
I
but
mean, what we did for Lily's birthday party, basically.
yeah,
I mean,
we actually bought uh, low end theater makeup
yeah.
for that, but um, but if that's all you can afford, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But we have seen productions where it's like, I know you had more fucking money for the makeup. I know you did just based on everything else that's going on,
Hmm.
and you should have put more money at the makeup.
Yeah.
Because this fine quality stuff just loses it, you know. But anyway, I, I mean, yeah, the goblins were masks,
Hmm.
right? But it's the same kind of thing could be said for someone who does like a Star Wars fan film. Just fucking helmet. There's nothing else to it, right?
Yeah.
You know, um, I think that they spent the money that they could because there was a lot of goblins. It wasn't like three little dudes running around.
Well, there were like 10 goblins
Yeah, but then
max.
then there's
Googly eyes.
googly eyes.
Hmm.
Um, this is this weird paper mache thing, but anyway, uh, I just feel like they did what they could with the budget. I question the burlap sacks. Could have done a little bit better there. Um, but like Arnold's tree makeup wasn't bad.
It wasn't horrific. I mean, it was okay.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of money spent on. You can't, it's not like they painted branches on him.
Right.
The legs were actually pretty good. I mean, this was solid B movie makeup level
Yeah.
for this stuff. Um, there isn't much else that would qualify at that level. But yeah, I think that you take one actor, stick her in a costume. I think maybe just really rolled into it. You
Well,
know.
yeah. I mean, if you're the only person who's in like a full on costume, she had full on face makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you showed up expecting to be an extra and you're cast as the big bad witch.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm a spooky lady.
So I think I can forgive the makeup,
Sure.
the
Yeah,
costuming
that's
and,
fine.
and whatnot, because it wasn't horrific. I mean, it was cheap, but cheap is still expensive
Yeah.
because these were full on things that were applied to him, right?
Yeah.
And they actually like with the branches coming out, it actually looked pretty good. Where because
It
I
did.
paid
Yeah.
really close attention to where the uh, the makeup met the fingertips, right?
Hmm.
The appendages and such. Actually, pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, the funny part about the dream that Josh had in the van when all the green shit was he was like profuse, not even profusely. It was like someone was pouring a bucket over him.
Yeah.
They cut away to some other shit and they cut back to him, and obviously it's not running anymore. But you could see that his face was fucking dyed green. And
Yeah.
I wonder how long that lasted.
They used a lot of green dye in this movie.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to give that top notch.
Yeah.
They did what they could, and it actually wasn't horrible. Now, let's talk about the writing.
Terrible.
I don't know that there was a clear focus.
Even if the writing had been written in perfect English, the story was still bad.
Yeah.
The dialogue was still bad.
Yeah.
The beats were still bad. There were a lot of things that didn't add up or make sense, or that were overcompensated for. I mean, if you're trying to do a movie where this town is like secretly the Goblin Kingdom,
Right.
you can't. You have to allow the thought into your head that the audience has some level of basic intelligence.
I mean, you do.
And we were spoon fed exposition in every single scene.
Yeah.
And it was obnoxious.
Yeah. So here's some things. So number one, why would goblins be so Christian oriented, especially if they came from Stonehenge? Because Credence is clearly a goblin,
Right.
right? So that means all the goblins came from fucking Stonehenge.
Right.
I mean, sure. I'm making an assumption because as bad as this movie is, every time I've seen it, I have found myself trying to piece together some logic to it.
Don't.
Well,
You'll just hurt yourself.
well, I have, but that's how I work. So anyway, I the whole church thing and the whole meat thing, and turn meat into vegetable porridge, which may or may not have gigantic breasts.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if we're gonna be straight on it, Mom didn't have big tits.
No. It's just it's
It's just
these goblins are pretty fucking preachy about being vegan.
Yeah.
And how gross humans are because we eat meat, but they eat vegetabilized humans who eat the meat.
That doesn't make sense.
There's no logic.
No. The music was atrocious.
Awful.
And inexcusably bad. They could
horrific.
They could have purchased stock tracks. Because in 1990 they still had that kind of. I mean that was available. It's been available. But it was
also just lazy too. It was riffs that just repeated endlessly on loops.
I know. Well, when you were talking about when they suddenly cut to like a Casio.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but it sounded like they actually were putting two hands to work.
Yeah.
Because the keys were too far apart for anyone, unless you're like Andre the Giant and you've got this massive finger spread.
Right.
But I'm like, okay. They're pouring their all into it, two hands. Because most of the stuff we watch like this, with this Casio music, it's just, you can tell it's just one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like blink, 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 blink. And the only thing it's missing is the fucking bossa nova auto beat.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, maybe they disabled it.
I don't know.
So music bad, writing
terrible,
just terrible. And more importantly, even if it's not in like great English, the family dynamic. What in the fuck?
Right?
I mean, is this what this gentleman thought American families were like? Or is where he comes from in Italy, is this how it is? You have to ask.
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe there's a combination. Maybe there's some, cultural differences. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just it's difficult without getting into the nitty gritty of some things. Like the very beginning of the movie, Holly is bench pressing in her room. She's got a bench press in her room for some reason. And
can I address that?
Okay.
When I was 13, I got one for my birthday.
Okay.
All right. In the 80s, that was the thing. It's very small, very lightweight. I mean, this you couldn't put 300-pound barbell on that. It'd collapse and kill you.
Yeah.
Right. But that was a huge thing, and they were cheap because everyone was buying them. And my grandfather bought me one.
Okay.
And even had a little leg lift thing on it. And, it, you're just
But
looking at me like, what?
but I mean, it is alien to me that a mom would peek into her daughter's room, see her daughter bench pressing, and go, "Oh, she probably doesn't need a spotter."
Wasn't that heavy?
Like,
And I know you should always have it, but I mean, I
good
nobody.
night, darling. I hope you don't choke on your bar.
Oh my God, just doing like 20 pounds.
Anyway,
Anyway,
it's so lighting, I mean, mostly consistent, but confusing, not well done.
the whole bit about everyone's in bed because they're farmers
Yeah.
in the middle of the fucking day. Like I said, he didn't even like spring for a day for night filter.
There was also, I mean, just the cinematography, completely uninspired, very basic.
It was very basic. And because I listened to the Pontypool, because every time I upload it, I listen to it through one of the things to make sure it's made it everywhere intact.
Hmm.
And you had mentioned that you thought Pontypool, it made you feel like it was a student film,
Yeah.
right? This is very textbook student film. Not saying it was a student film,
Right.
but anyone who's gone to film school, anyone who's read a book on making a film, it was completely in the box, like tight in a small box.
Right.
There was nothing inspiring. There was nothing that gave us movement, nothing that,
There was no style.
no, it didn't give a feeling to the movie. And that's what's missing. Horror movies, especially, even if it's PG, like Poltergeist, right?
Mhm.
PG. The reason that film fucking knocks it out of the park, the concept itself wasn't super fantastic or really well executed, in my opinion,
Mhm.
all these years. But I love it because the way it was shot, I was right fucking there with them,
Yeah.
right? I was right there with the creepiness when they cut the camera to the right and come back to the left, and the chairs go from the floor, and then you don't see it. You come back, now they're on the table.
Hmm.
There was such intimacy in that shot, in the way it was done, and the movements, and the
Oh, yeah.
framing, and everything, and how it was cut. I was like, ooh, I get it. I
Yeah.
see why you'd be freaked out.
Yeah.
You know, if it had been in this movie, I would have just been like, what the fuck now?
Well, it's like, like writing without a voice, right? Like just writing facts. It's dry. It's so dry.
Yeah, like a student film
Yeah.
by a not great student. Checking
Well,
the boxes.
yeah, but Pontypool at least had a style to it, right?
Oh, it had a wonderful style.
Yeah, it did.
You know, I'm so glad we did that because I'm still
Mm,
doing my thing with it.
yeah.
You know.
Still doing brain jazz with it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and this just it had zero style.
You know, it is a movie that rightfully deserves dumping.
Oh, it does.
Okay, but it does qualify to me as so bad it's funny,
Hmm.
and it has a cult following. So it's a win in that, like I said, dude wanted to make this movie. He did. I don't know the logistics behind it and the difficulties or not. I don't know because it's a foreign film, basically, right?
It is.
And um, they're always a little different. But that being said, not this different, and so many shortcuts.
Yeah.
I don't even think shortcuts. I think just omissions, like day for night filter.
I mean, basic stuff.
You know,
I mean, that unexplained barn warehouse building that the town was gathering in town. Like, what even was that?
right?
And, they're trying to force feed Josh ice cream when they catch him, when the preacher face hugs him with his hand. And you look at what they're trying to give him as ice cream, and you're like, has anyone in this movie ever seen ice cream before? Because what they're trying to give him is clearly not ice cream.
Here's what I don't understand. Why did this even take place? So this comes to writing,
Hmm.
and this comes to story development. And I've said it before. If you don't fucking follow the basic principles of story development, no matter how weird, far out you want your shit to be, it will fail. You cannot omit. You cannot shift, shape, and reinvent the story formula. Because when you do, it's shit. And we've covered things that have done that.
Yeah.
Like, this would have been good if they had just fucking, like, given us something.
Yeah.
So here's my thing, right? Why the whole town thing? Why the big city swap, exchange family thing? Why not lure somebody under something? And why all the pretense and shit? Have a big ceremony, welcome, feed them, drug them, vegetize them, fucking eat
throw
them.
a festival in the town.
This could have been from beginning to end. This whole encounter could have lasted like 4 hours.
It's a really elaborate plot they do to draw people into this town. Okay. I've had a thought and I want to pitch it to you.
Give it to me.
Okay. I would watch a sequel to this film where the premise of the sequel is Josh grown up going through therapy about his experience.
Sure.
With this whole situation. But the real problems he's having with the experience with this whole situation are the ways that nothing really added up. And how dumb his parents were, and about his obsession with his like weird godlike dead grandpa.
So a sequel that mocks its precursor.
Yes.
Okay.
But in the end, the therapist turns out to be a goblin.
That would be, as soon as the first credit hit the screen, or the intro title, I mean, that would be where I'd be going. Oh, yeah. There's going to be a fucking goblin.
Yeah.
I would make Josh a goblin.
I love it.
Doesn't make sense, but it fits.
It does fit.
Because we've seen that too. It's like, why all of a sudden, what?
But yeah, it's just Josh going like, why was everything green? How did they think they were going to get away with that? And,
because it says that they're sweating chloroform when we have the Peter story in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pete's not just
chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll. Yeah. Well, maybe it should be chloroform.
Yeah.
So they'll help you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're. It's part of the vegetable thing. It's the vegetizing of them. Vegetabilizing. I don't even know what you call it. What do you call mutating someone into a vegetable? Vegetabilizing? Vegetizing?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Food processing. Anyway, it's like from the inside out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, he's like, we killed them all. And then somehow they came and ate my mom, And I still have dreams about her crazy eyes.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the script.
Sure.
Forget the writing. The lesson I want to put in here for new filmmakers and everything. If you insist that everyone just read from the script and that is how you're going to run the show, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Now, you might still make a good movie and stuff, but you're going to fail in realizing the potential of the story, whether it's yours or someone else wrote it. Because
it's a collaborative art.
It's a collaborative art, but it's trust and faith.
Yeah.
That is all art of any kind is. In this kind of thing, you have to trust in your actors. You have to trust in them to do the job you hired them to do. Mm-hmm. And you have to have faith that what they are doing is for the betterment of the show, the movie, the film, whatever.
It is an actor's job to embody the character and to stand up for their character and say, I don't think this character would do that or say that.
Right. And I think even more critical is when an actor says, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
I don't understand how to say this. Or in some cases, listening to this movie over and over, trying to repeat things, I can't physically say it.
Yeah.
because it's so grammatically incorrect and nonsensical. What do I do? As a director, you need to be like, let's talk. Show me what you've got. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Or better yet, because we're in the age of digital, right? Shoot another fucking scene the actor's way.
Yeah.
Say, okay. And I've always thought about that. I still think about I was driving, I don't know, was it running an errand somewhere? And I found myself thinking about this,
Mm-hmm.
if we had a large production, I have two rules, Number one, you read the script exactly as it's written. And then number two, tell me what you need to have different. And then let's shoot it and let's see. Because you're going to be right, or I'm going to be right, or we're both going to be partially right. And if you don't know how to edit the best parts of both of those scenes together, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
But we talk about, we labor. We have spent days over a single fucking line.
Yeah.
Writing a script. It comes to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
Because it has to make sense to us. It has to embody what we've built up to it, and it has to propel us forward. And we have talked about combination of words. What words? How many words? Too much, too little? And then we finally hit it, and we're like, oh. And to me, I could think of nothing better than to see this person who has talent that he or she practiced or just has or is even just trying to do, right? To take characters off of a page that form words in a language they understand,
Mm-hmm.
and elevate it from something on paper to real, something 3D, something in the world, right?
Yeah.
This character, this moment, this thing. How fucking awesome is that? And if they come up with a better way to do it and it makes sense, fuck me.
Yeah.
I would love to be a part of that process. And that's the thing, folks. Get rid of ego. Get rid of ego. Don't like wallow under self-doubt, but don't ever consider yourself to be like the greatest, hottest thing that's going to come up and just smash. No, have that ambition to come up and smash, but don't have the ego that your way is the only way. We're not going to get into it, but there's so many films that went the right way because the director and the screenwriter had it the wrong way. And an actor was like, hey, can I do my job?
Yeah.
Just let me see what you think. Back in the old days, it was a difficult thing to sell because film was fucking expensive, right? All these people are getting paid hourly. Indie films don't work like that. I need you to run this camera. I can afford $1,000. It's a 4-day shoot, and this is what we're doing. Okay. Well, that 4-day might be 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. But like with digital and low end stuff, do it. Do it. You can afford the 3 minutes.
Well, and then to build on that, because I don't really have any other lessons that we could.
I mean, that's kind
take
of
from
yeah.
this
This
film.
is yeah.
But don't be afraid to rewrite something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to take that feedback on what's going on and rewrite something. One of my favorite stories it's not about a film, but it's about a book, is the author. So it's The Book, the Sparrow, Mary Doria Russell. There are two characters in that book who kind of dance around each other with this kind of tension between them, right? And her original intention was for them to end up together, right? But she got about halfway through the book, and when she came to that scene that she was going to write where they kind of figure out that they have feelings for each other and yada yada, she said as she was writing it, the character Sophia spoke to her, or Sophie spoke to her basically through the writing and was like, this isn't how this is supposed to go.
Right.
Right? She'd written that character that had become so alive to her, but imagine you're on a set, right? And something similar happens. An actor goes, we've been filming this for days and I've been in this character's head and I think it should go this way, not this way. Not necessarily this line, this dialogue, but maybe even the story itself.
Right.
And so don't be afraid to take that into consideration.
I think it comes again. Well, it's ego.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll wrap this up, but I want to add on to this. So, first of all, rewriting is not a bad thing.
No.
Even in the middle of production of films, they have rewritten whole things. And to that point, every pilot that you see, so the first episode of everything that comes on TV, I'll say network, because Netflix doesn't really do a pilot. They decide to shoot the whole, and you get a whole season.
Yeah.
Right. So for standard television, 90% of the shows that come out, you see the pilot and then episode 2 is so different.
Yeah.
Because they're like, the pilot's great, but we're not going to reshoot it. We'll make some changes. So character has a different stance, different way of talking. I famously use like Seinfeld episode, the pilot, George Costanza has a brother. No, he doesn't. Never did.
Right.
It just, and that's the beauty of television is they just like, for something like a sitcom that doesn't have a whole, episode story. It's like, fuck it. It happened, but let's just move on. Right. Now that also works negatively, like Battlestar Galactica, where they set up all the rules and they just like skull fucked them for the last 2 seasons because Ron Moore was like, I'm so fucking rich, I don't even need to do this. So let's just, get him out. It's like Prince and his albums. You owe us an album. Give me a second. Goes downstairs, goes into the vault, comes up and says, here you go. Shut the fuck up. Get out.
Yep.
Boom. If you're the director and writer, or you're the writer and you're working with owner, don't ever be fucking afraid to reach out to somebody and just say, hey, can you read this with me and tell me what you think? Because we have reached out multiple times about things. How would this be said? What is this thing? Or research certain things. I mean, dialogue is dialogue. Without it, you basically just have a bunch of people running around silently on a screen with not even like silent films, with no like text to sum up the last 3 minutes that you watched. Never be afraid. Don't be so egotistical that you're like, oh, this is my thing. Well, yes, it's your thing, but be fucking smart about it. Right? There's no shame asking for input. Asking someone, I'm not a huge fan of Shonda Rhimes, but her thing that she coined, they write scripts. They don't even, her script writers were told never try to speak doctor jargon.
Right. They just write medical.
They write medical. And then they have a consultant who fills that shit in. Right? Yep. That's the way you do it. It's like every movie that has historic value and stuff, they have consultants. A lot of movies that are big, they hire people, war consultants, military consultants. What's it be like a soldier, or how is a doctor or a race car driver and stuff? Because we can write anything we want.
Sure.
But if we actually don't know anything about it, it's going to come off like Troll 2.
That's right.
So wrapping up everything, make your movie. Just do it. It might be a disappointment, might be received poorly. And 20 years later, it might become this great fucking thing for this underground movement that people love. And you have to enjoy that.
Yeah.
It might not make you rich, might not make you famous, might not make you view a career. Right. And I keep thinking of Failure Boys Productions. I still will forever be sad because their stuff wasn't received well. And I think it's fucking brilliant. And I am so glad that we saw it. And I've rewatched both.
Yeah.
Over and over. And I just feel like if they would have just punched through one more, we would have some wonderful films by these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So fail upward if you have to.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at Tommy.
Right. Tommy Wiseau. I'm looking right at him.
Yeah.
Bubblehead Tommy.
Yeah, you got a great view on that side of
the
room. But he, got launched into the cult Stratosphere, right? Cult classic Stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's making all kinds of stuff. I don't know how much money he makes, but it's,
Well, no one ever knows how much money he's actually ever had because he was wealthy coming into this.
right.
But that's the funny thing is, it didn't happen later. Tommy did the thing where fuck ego, right? Everyone
Mhm.
thought The Room was a comedy
Yeah.
because it was so bad. And what did he do? That whole thing of, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, of course.
That whole thing of,
That's what I meant it to be.
yeah, I saw this, someone sees a mistake in your film. Oh, you caught that, did you?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be there. You saw that. Oh,
Glad you
okay.
caught that.
Yeah. Excellent. Thought nobody would get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do your thing, folks. It's 2025. We talked about storming forward, and Jesus Christ, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Do your thing, because everything else is going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
So take charge of your shit, make your thing, spend all the time you can, and make the best of it.
Yeah.
Reach out to people, share it with people, collaborate with people, because the nature of this stuff is going to start dying if we just keep warehousing stuff.
Yeah.
And, read as written. Well, if you're a voice actor and you got paid to do a commercial for radio, read
the copy.
This isn't the place for that shit, right? Collect your check and go do the real work, the acting kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
With that.
Well, I just want a last thing.
Okay.
So folks, you can see why this was dreaded. We should have landed on this day one. This is what it's about, but it's a hard movie to watch. So get your favorite recreational, mind-altering substance of some kind. Get some friends, make some fucking popcorn, have some nachos and shit. Put this bitch on a big screen and enjoy it together.
Yeah.
I mean, just do it.
This is the movie that you yell at the TV about, that you make snarky comments while you're watching it, that you talk over it in some parts because some parts are just plain unwatchable. And you just have a good time.
And if you can find one of these showings, because you might be surprised.
Or like a Troll 2 con.
Yeah, like, Dad might show up and sign. He signs stuff and just, fucking loves it.
What a doll.
It's very genuine.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Do it. Watch it with some folks. And if you can go to one of these things, go to it. I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day we'll be able to sketch that in and, make it worthwhile look for one. But anyway. So, yes, Troll 2. Here we are. And here we go.
Check out our website, lordsofmisrulproductions.com.
Everything's on there. Do all the stuff.
Become a patron.
Please.
Yep. Send us something to cover.
Yes. Reach out to us. Get people to reach out to us. Let's help them out.
Yeah.
Let's help them out. I mean, we're not, Good Morning America. We don't have that kind of reach. But we do know that people have found movies because of us and have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we always want to keep doing that. And people have had small measures of success.
Mm-hmm.
So let's help everyone out.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time.
This is Danny.
And this is Jim.
Catch you later.
Bye.